looks like it's mostly looking fine. Need to switch to a different galaxy where I haven't been messing around. The items that the characters have by default, things like the quickfire and quiet gun, are just their starting inventory. As the game goes on, it doesn't really meaningfully change, although the starting money changes and the ships, such as that breacher pod, can change. I'm gonna be going with this rechargeable high-capacity visitor, largely because it is the best of these initial options. I'm gonna turn the volume down just a little bit. Might need to turn the volume up on OBS at some point in time. Oh, yeah, forgot to tweet it out. And because I'm using the full screen, that doesn't always continue working. This is just to let you know about the various things you need to do for your own personal mission. What you ultimately need to do is get, on a per character basis, get that money, that intel cost, and from there you can go do the personal mission. Although not everybody, especially in this early point, not every character is necessarily going to be able to do those missions. This mission is probably going to be difficult for this character. But, I mean, these other missions are going to be way too easy. So, out of a sense of obligation to Hubris, I'm going to be doing missions stupidly. Oh yeah. This is definitely the stupid option. And I should... Nope, not quite. Now, I know there's a level 3 out there. Darn. Well, I stated that the mission choice was for the purposes of Hubris. Now that we have that out of our system, yeah, I'm not really that concerned about bringing that character back. This is probably just about as stupid, but it doesn't have the shield people, so it'll very likely... Whoops. It was going to work a lot better if I had stopped in time. And that prevented an alarm. Which is good, because that would have really been bad. And, whoops, actually the objective here is slightly more important than my character, because my character knows how to breathe for more than 15 seconds. But that wasn't too difficult. These self-charging things are fantastic. Generally speaking, and I shouldn't say generally speaking, basically the only way you'll ever get oh, that reminds me, I should... For this playthrough, I do not want to have the advantages of getting items from other people's characters. Because that would be an early way to get self-charging items when you really probably shouldn't yet. But this is kind of the way the game mostly plays. You go through, you do these missions. You pick up items to get your characters in better situations. And I'm just gonna hijack this instead of bothering with that odd. Largely to show what happens when you are in command of a large ship, you can just set it for a friendly course. Or set course to a friendly station. And this is one of the big ways how it goes, especially and that's not supposed to be there. And I can actually, well, I guess I should say that's not supposed to consistently be there. Oh, I guess we started in one that unlocked those. Never mind. That's convenient. That's a way to deal with shields or really badly placed, annoyingly placed sentry guns. The problem is once the alarm goes off, these will be basically impossible to do anything about. So, it's a problem of, right now I don't really have the solution to those. That was weird. And occasionally you're stuck in a spot where you need to just wait. Fine. Since there's no alarm response on this, it doesn't matter if I shoot somebody. And I'm not really concerned about ammunition, because unless you... Actually, I do want that. Unless you do just keep doing missions where you are going up against the group's off-world, who uses nothing but non-lethal weaponry, such as where I'm at now. If there was a shotgun here, concussion shotgun, I would take one of those, just because they do tend to be useful at some point in time, but the basic ones just aren't that good. As you can see by the fact that I'm missing like half of my shots because I'm not really paying that much attention. Yeah, this is a good example of the difference between some of the missions. You have these two, which are aboard a same-sized ship. Medium-sized glitchers do tend to be slightly larger, slightly more annoying than the medium-sized sovereign ships. But it's a few guards with explosive being what's causing it to be a serious kit, versus shield. Well, I could only deal with 3 of those shield guys because I have that crash beam. So... and even with the explosive, you can still kill them. Especially if you have a gun. Sure, it'll set off the alarm, but it's really not that big a deal in a lot of the situations. And with only 2 guards per spot, I can actually go grab this key cloner before I need to worry about this next guy. It also means I can safely do this without needing to worry about switching my gun off to that stealth shield. And this isn't necessarily the only way to do it. I just tend to prefer doing the hijack method because it's a little bit quicker overall. Can't quite get over there. Then, navigating the pod back, since you can do the entire thing at 6 times speed. Larger ships aren't very quick to do so, but... and here we have my favorite weapon in the game, at 3 times the price of what it normally is. Now, one of the reasons it's so nice is that quick recovery. Quick recovery means instead of waiting almost half a second, it's probably a quarter of that. It still feels like forever if you have one of those warnings up, but it's a lot quicker in most situations. And I'm apparently able to unlock what I consider to be the most powerful item right off the bat. That's kind of ridiculous. Really, if rechargeable sidewinders are anywhere near here, this will be utterly ridiculous. Now, it looks like the various rechargeable teleporters are a ways away, but not that bad. Worst case, that's going to be maybe 3 or 4 characters if I'm able to keep up a decent clip. And yeah, I can't afford that slipstream, so let's go do a mission. Should have probably kept that wrench. It would be useful for this. Even though I mentioned the recharge on the hammer is a lot faster. Oops, is a lot faster. It's still not instant, so I'm going to go do this so I can kind of just show off the hammer, show off why I like it so much. Where? That happens occasionally, and I'm really not sure why. But yeah, the throwing enemies large distances is a big part of the reason why I like the concussion hammer so much. It's just really satisfying to use most of the time when you're not getting any distance on it like I was in most of these corridors for some reason. It's not quite as satisfying. Also, if you're still moving when you hit the E button, you will instantly come out of the pilot's seat. Which is a minor annoyance, but it happens. So, I mean, there's really nothing about this that's going to make it hard aside from the size. I've been hijacking most of the ships anyway. So I just need to knock every... There's really nothing about this that makes this hard. Because there's, what, like 6 people on the ship? 5 people on this ship? And that zoom out is something that occasionally happens. It's a bug. I believe it's one of the ones that Tom Francis is working to fix as quickly as possible. But it happens. And I mean, after that last one, especially since I have what, 8 crash beams available, this is very likely to not really be an issue. One of the things I do really like about the concussion hammer is that that is a lot of swappers there. It gets the enemies out of the way, in addition to knocking him out. So for a lot of these things, you don't even need to reposition their bodies, which is fantastic. I'm basically just doing this like I don't have access to the crash beam. Reason being that there will inevitably come a time when I don't have the crash... Really? That's kind of ridiculous. When I don't have the crash beam... Oh. Sorry about that, forgot to mute my phone. There will inevitably come a time when I don't have crash beams on me, where I need to still do this crap. I'm not really too concerned about it. And that's the reason why you don't want to do what I was just doing. Fortunately, the off-world security uses concussive weapons. Because if they'd used deadly weapons, what would have happened there is I would have had 30 seconds to grab the character or he would die. Not really that big of an issue. I'm actually going to send one of those too. But it does decrease over time, so the next time that I'd gotten hit by a deadly weapon and had to do that, I would have only had 24 seconds, and so on and so forth until your character suffers a final death. And I think I'm going to, by default, have that. Just so that I have an additional weapon. And yeah, it can't go directly for the Sidewinder. But it'll unlock us silenced guns, which, and more importantly, audacious missions. I will show those off, but probably not take one right now. That's actually viable. I mean, the time limit kind of sucks, but once you take out the captain, time limits go away. Because the time limit is for them getting back in their sector. Yeah, this... I guess this is to kind of have an easy start for audacious missions. Because this isn't meaningfully different from what I was just doing. In fact, because there's only 4 guards in here, it's easier. And to show off what I mean when I say that this is the essentially win button, it's 10 seconds of you move at 10 times speed and enemies move at 1/10 speed. I'll actually put that description up. Oh, you move at 5 times speed. So you're moving half speed and everybody else is moving 1/10 speed. And those times where I'm seen by people, well, you don't get seen by people in Slipstream. You can if you stick around, but you don't need to stick around. Well, let's pay the money for this. Let's see what the personal mission has as far as no. Right now, I can't do this. The armor alone makes it so I don't have a possible way to do this. So, I will go over, and I think I will probably do this hijack mission and retire this character. Or at the very least, I'll get, if this doesn't get it to the next liberation part, I'll do these things until there's... That is a lot of guards. Oops. Well, that was not my intent, but... worked pretty well. Oh, I need to actually just hit those anyway. For a second I thought they were the... But yeah, this is a really good example of why the concussion hammer is ridiculous. So, even though I stated that I did not want the ability to pick up shared items, it's still going to pick them up from my prior run and probably my other galaxy as well, which is kind of unfortunate. Especially since that does mean that there are some self-charging items in that pool. But it happens. Aside from the size, I don't think this is going to be meaningfully different from what I just did. And this is actually one of the problems with the game, is ultimately, end of the day, if you're doing a lot of these missions in kind of a mostly hijack style, a lot of them feel repetitive, and there's not much difference from doing the missions to just going out and trying to find the largest ship you can and taking that out. I got lucky there. Not sure what it deflected off of, but... yeah, I'm just gonna be doing another hijack on this. No reason not to. And that's what the... I don't know if I showed those off before, but that's what the visitor teleporters do. They send you somewhere, and then after a little bit, send you back. And this looks like this is basically all the crew on the ship. This is a good time to use the slipstream and show off just how ridiculous it is. Those guys are going to die. I failed that optional mission because I just killed half the crew. It happens. I will never get tired of them shooting their own crew members. Just because it's so ridiculous. And it happens, well, I mean, on these large guards, lots of guards ships, it happens pretty frequently. You know, it'll probably take less time to clear this out than it would to oh yeah, I want to... But yeah, I don't get my reward for not killing anybody because I knocked a whole bunch of people through a window. That's fine, it was gonna be this guy's last mission one way or the other, just because his personal mission is undoable with the stuff I have access to. Largely, and I will show this off again, because it has people in armor where I would need to knock one out. And the only way I would have to do that would be knock them through a window. And I have not successfully done that on a person who has armor. Now, as far as items to make this character's signature item, the two best ones, so to speak, would be the concussion hammer or that slipstream, just because those are, generally speaking, the most powerful items that this character has. I'm going to go with the slipstream just because even though we have access to rechargeable ones, the concussion hammer would probably be a bit more overpowered. I'm going to go with the shield just so I can show that off for a bit. Now, the Enigma Claws is actually something that works well in association with deadly weapons, because it specifically states no living witnesses. That is a lot of guards. So, being realistic here, I am going to need to kill everyone. Or if not everyone, the vast majority of everyone. Fortunately, with everyone having glitch dash, well, this character just made it out. And that shows what happens when you get hit by a lethal weapon. I'm gonna grab this ship. There are later ships though which can damage these other ships by doing what I just did. I don't really care for any of the ships other than, well, I mean, depending upon what style I'm going for. For the most part, though, my preference is for the, Really? There's no chests on here? Interesting. There is a shotgun, though. I'll just toss it. Actually, I will show those off right now. Each of the 4 major players here, factions, has their own ship. For the Glitchers, it's the Glitcher Tick. It can teleport straight to a ship's airlock, meaning none of that docking that I am really, really bad at. It is, for that reason, my favorite. For the off-world, there is the off-world Angel. If you get shot and spaced, it will pick you up and you won't take any permanent damage, meaning each time you have that full 30 seconds. In addition, its use button will bring in anybody who's in space. That's also another very useful thing if you're planning to just eject yourself and somebody else into space and pick them up. For the Sovereign, it's the Sovereign Cold Fire, which, there it is. You can press use to have your thruster, which is done via the left mouse button, be something that won't be picked up by the scanners, by those cameras. I would rather just use the Tick in 100% of the situations. And it becomes really, really weird because the Tick is cheaper than the Cold Fire. For the Foundry, it's the Foundry Brick. It never needs to resort to emergency fuel, which happens if you get stuck on those cameras and shot. And if you run into somebody, it'll do damage to them. Neither one of those are especially meaningful, so I don't tend to use them. Okay. Now, if I was being smart here, I would grab something like a wrench from the shop, or a long blade. Just because overall I'm not a big fan of the... Whoa. I need to actually have a weapon equipped. I'm not a huge fan of the short blade, but with everybody having heat sensors, it's not going to be a big deal. Because when they have heat sensors, they will turn towards you. And again, there's that bug. Not sure at all what causes it. Occasionally, I killed everybody. Why is... I even killed one after the fact just to make it... This game's weird sometimes. Is that self-charging? No, it's just rechargeable. And this character's... This is one of my favorite texts. It's, It's really funny when it's somebody else's character. So it's rescue my idiot partner, whoever. Yeah, I don't have a way to deal with this without a crash beam, and it's too large a ship for me to... Well, how much are... Yeah, I don't have access to enough of those. I think we're going to go do this bloodless one. I'm really tempted to do it the stupid way of just using my concussive shotgun. This would be a lot stupider if it was a large ship. Larger ship. As is, that wasn't even painful. I will say that one thing that I do dislike about the UI here is I kind of wish that these were all white normally and only lit up in such a way if you broke them, didn't do them. Yeah, well, I might be able to do that, but with lots of guards, that tends to mean lots of boss enemies, and I don't realistically have a way to deal with them. So, this character's stuck on medium missions for the moment, just because of lack of tools. I didn't want the alarm, considering it's such a short alarm, going off right away. Here I should be close enough to the pilot not to have to worry about it. Hey, another shield. Another shield that I will forget to use inevitably. Now this actually is a way to deal with armor. Now this character still won't have a way to deal with shields. But armor tends to be much more of a concern much of the time than shields are. say as I click to a audacious mission where there is no armor and there is just shields. If that wasn't a large ship and I still had money for a crash beam. Oh, I do have money for a crash beam. I'll grab one of those. I still realistically can't do those because these guys have the key cards. Although it's more realistic than some of the other ones. So let's go give it a shot. Worst case, I can jump out a window. Well, okay, worst case, this character gets captured, but... Or I discover that I am actually completely unable to dock. That is a lot of guards. Oh, Cubus got this one. Well, Stupidity got this one. And there's actually two characters I'm willing to start on this one. The restockable grenade launcher is a really powerful killing device because it ignores the armor. It does not ignore shields, though. Which can be one of the reasons why for certain things, shields can be a lot more annoying than the armor. Because if you go after the rechargeable grenade launchers first, you have ample access availability of these grenades. And I wasn't even reading that. I'd love to sit here and say, oh, that's the first time that I've ever done that. No, I've killed a decent number of the capture targets. There is a reason why I, for a while, was doing entirely bloodless runs as much as possible, because I, after a while, stopped paying attention to what the missions were actually telling me to do. Like, this is capture. I will probably remember to do capture. in a lot of cases, I just get too caught up with doing what I want to do with the toys I have access to. And that is actually one of the more enjoyable ways to go through this game is I'm gonna grab a couple extra shotguns just so I can probably better demonstrate this at some point in time in the future. Although with shotguns it's not as necessary. And have a whole bunch of them in your inventory. Use one, shoot it, go to the next one, and while the ones that you are using are cooling down, reloading for all intents and purposes, you can use the other ones, and this is our first introduction to silent missions. As well as our introduction to Fiasco's missions. Now, the only danger here is that very, very short alarm response time. Because none of the enemies seem particularly bad, although there are going to be a lot of guards. That is the nature of these things. I don't want to accidentally use something good, by which I really mean something loud. And this is, at least superficially similar to the later Ghost missions. Ah, crap. That's weird. Okay, so I don't have access to a clear... My best shot out of here is to use the slipstream and return from whence I came. Because I messed up. Something about going into doing these types of missions with 4 shotguns makes it seem less likely that I will succeed in the silence missions. I mean, that's the thing, is you don't always need to be silent. No. And now that I've taken out the captain, I don't even think I need to be a bit silent. Because there is no more alarm. And I'm checking this every time I see the special stock, because that's what signifies there being these weird, overpriced items for sale. I'm gonna sell the 2 extra shotguns since I haven't had to use them. In addition to the shield on this guy, this one's kinda unviable because of the alarm response time. And Warzone, ignoring the lots of guards side. This has a short... Sorry, I just flipped the microphone. This is a short time limit, and... Do I have a... Can I afford... Crash beam? Oh, that was steel. I think this should probably be viable. I'm just gonna go over there and kill everybody. I'm using the pause there to minimize the amount of time that was spent. That was real good. That was real clever. I was gonna say, I didn't notice it was a, Warzone, but it wasn't. That was the... I don't have a way to deal with that guy. That worked nicely. if this isn't a way to deal with them. And it's not. I just have to wait this one out. Of course, it's going to be as tedious as possible. Other items. Darn, didn't work a second time. Not that it really matters since I can just pick myself up with the ship, but... It's medium size, so probably 4 or 5 sets of keys. I'm going to sell that and pick up another. Not relevant, well, a little bit relevant for this. And if I had a rechargeable concussive shotgun, I'd be using that instead, but I don't recall seeing one, unfortunately. So again, continuing, going for the chargeables up here. Getting the sidewinders and visitors permanently will be nice. As I mentioned when I started this off, I am of the opinion that slipstreams and sidewinders are the most powerful of the gadgets. Let's check out what the personal mission for this guy entails. That armor? That is not armor, that is just shields. The rough part here really is the time limit. Without a time limit, you could just go in with a whole bunch of rechargeable crash beams, knock everybody's shields down. Excuse me, sorry about that. And come back. Go to a station, change out your stuff, come back. With that time limit, you're in a spot where you'd be much better off dealing with everything by using sidewinders and slipstreams, like I said earlier. Neat. I think I just knocked myself out. Possibly shot myself. And that time I got blown up. This is going fantastically. I don't know what you're talking about. I missed him from point blank range. Skill shots, yo. I also missed that from what essentially amounts to point blank range. Oh, that's where that keycard thing is. That time I went out without even having the courtesy of getting shot. That occasionally happens when the slipstream ends. You don't really have very much control for the last second or so. I think it's safe to say that this is a no witness run. Even the character himself is probably not real sure what happened. The ship's sure not sure what happened. Yeah, no living witnesses. That is the only requirement. Unlock those visitors. This is the real thing that you want. It's the self-charging slipstreams. High capacity is not really that important on them. A capacity of 3 is more than enough, unless you're just trying to use them constantly. And I think we're done for here. Thank you for watching.